The Rise and Fall of Gurara Capital. Season 1. Episode 8. The Whispers of Truth.
The whispers began slowly, almost imperceptibly, but they grew louder with each passing day. It started in the break room, during those quiet moments when people gathered to sip their coffee and take a break from the stress that seemed to be building within Gurara Capital. It was there, amidst the clinking of mugs and the murmurs of small talk, that people began to say what they had been thinking for weeks. "Do you remember when Umar was still here?" Aisha said one morning, her voice low but filled with nostalgia. She was sitting with a few of her colleagues, her eyes distant. He always knew how to handle these kinds of problems. Things were so much smoother back then. The others nodded, their faces clouded with a mix of frustration and sadness. "Yeah," one of them replied. "Umar was the one who kept everything running. He never made a fuss, but he always got things done. Now it's like everything's falling apart." "It's true," another employee chimed in. "I mean, Ahmed talks a big game, but he's not Umar. He doesn't have the same understanding, the same dedication. I've never seen anyone work as hard as Umar did." The conversation continued, the tone shifting from frustration to resignation. It was clear that everyone was feeling the absence of Umar's steady hand, and the tension in the office was growing with each passing day. People were making mistakes, deadlines were being missed, and no one seemed to know how to fix it. Sarah Mark overheard these conversations, though she tried not to let it show. She would walk past the break room, her head held high, her face expressionless, but inside she felt a growing unease. She had been so sure of her decisions, so confident that she was doing what was best for the company. But now, as she listened to her employees talk about Umar, she couldn't help but wonder if she had made a terrible mistake. One afternoon, as Sarah was walking to her office, she was stopped by Mr. Okoro, her father's right-hand man. He had been with Gurara Capital for years, and his loyalty to the company was unquestionable. He looked at Sarah, his expression serious, his eyes filled with concern. "Miss Mark, can I speak with you for a moment?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. Sarah nodded, gesturing for him to follow her into her office. Once they were inside, she closed the door and turned to face him. "What is it, Mr. Okoro?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mr. Okoro hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "Miss Mark, I've been hearing a lot of talk among the staff. People are struggling, and I think it's because we lost someone who was very important to this company. Umar was more than just an analyst. He was the one who held everything together. He understood the details, the risks, the people. I know you had your reasons for letting him go, but I think it might have been a mistake." Sarah felt a pang of guilt, her stomach twisting. She looked away, her eyes focusing on the window, the city beyond. "I made the decision I thought was best for the company," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize how much he was doing behind the scenes." Mr. Okoro nodded, his expression softening. "It's okay to make mistakes, Miss Mark. We all make them. But what matters is what we do after. Umar cared about this company. If there's any way to bring him back, I think it would make a big difference." Sarah swallowed hard, her heart heavy. She had been trying so hard to prove herself, to show that she could lead, that she could make the tough decisions. But now, as she listened to Mr. Okoro, she realized that maybe she had let her pride get in the way. Maybe she had been so focused on making changes, on proving herself, that she hadn't seen what was right in front of her. That evening, as Sarah sat in her office, the light from her computer screen casting a soft glow across the room, she found herself thinking about Umar. She remembered the way he had always been at his desk early in the morning, the way he had stayed late to finish a project, the quiet determination that had defined everything he did. She had taken it for granted, had assumed that he was just another employee, someone who could be replaced. But now she knew better. Across the office, Ahmed was feeling the pressure as well. He had taken on more responsibilities, had tried to step into the role that Umar had left behind, but it was becoming increasingly clear that he was out of his depth. The more people talked about Umar, the more nervous Ahmed became. He could feel the weight of the lies he had told, the pressure of trying to live up to expectations that he knew he couldn't meet. He had stolen Umar's research, had claimed it as his own, and for a while it had seemed like he could get away with it. But now, as the company began to falter, as the whispers grew louder, Ahmed knew that his time was running out. He could see the doubt in Sarah's eyes, the way she looked at him with a mixture of frustration and disappointment. He knew that it was only a matter of time before the truth came out, before everyone realized that he wasn't the brilliant strategist he had pretended to be. One night, long after most of the office had gone home, Sarah found herself staring at her phone, Umar's contact information on the screen. Her finger hovered over the call button, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to reach out to him, to ask him to come back, to help fix the mess that she had created. But something held her back. Fear, pride, uncertainty. She didn't know if he would even be willing to talk to her, if he would forgive her for what she had done. With a sigh, Sarah put her phone down, her shoulders slumping. She wasn't ready yet. She wasn't ready to admit that she had failed, that she needed help. But deep down, she knew that she couldn't keep going like this, that she couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The next day, as Sarah walked through the office, she heard the whispers again. People talking about Umar, about how things had been better when he was here. She felt the guilt, the regret, the weight of her mistakes pressing down on her. But this time, instead of ignoring it, she listened. She listened to what her employees were saying, to the frustration in their voices, to the longing for the stability that Umar had brought. And in that moment, Sarah made a decision. She didn't know if Umar would be willing to come back, didn't know if she could fix what she had broken, but she knew that she had to try. It was okay to make mistakes, everyone made them. But what mattered was learning from them, was being willing to change, to admit when you were wrong. As Sarah walked back to her office, she felt a sense of determination that she hadn't felt in a long time. She was ready to make things right, to do whatever it took to bring stability back to Gurara Capital. And maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to bring Umar back, to show him that she had learned from her mistakes, that she was willing to do better. For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep her going, to give her the strength to face the challenges ahead. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to try. And that was the first step toward making things right.